And now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson-Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and a maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Nick. Have you ever wanted to have easy access to the README, changelog, and install files for the contrib modules on your Drupal site? There's a module for that. It's called Module Instructions, and it was created in April of 2012 by Alice Rebeck of Slovenia. It currently has 7.x-1.0 and 2.0.3 versions available, the latter of which works with Drupal 9 and 10. It is actively maintained and has security coverage. It also has test coverage, and it currently has 4 open issues, none of which are bugs against the 2.0 branch, which is great considering it's in use by over 1,200 Drupal sites, according to Drupal.org. The current maintainer of the 2.0 branch is Victor Holevicek, aka Austin Victor, of the Ukraine Drupal community. And the module works by it's pretty straightforward. You essentially install the module the way you would any other. And then once it's installed, anyone who has access to the modules page on a Drupal site will see the links on that page for any README, changelog, or install files that are available for the contrib modules in the code base. It also provides a cron job and drush command to generate those links stored in the site state storage so that the application isn't doing all of the work of sort of parsing through your file system to find all of those different files within your contrib modules every time someone wants to load that modules page. It does override the template for the module page to add those links, so be aware that if you're doing something very custom and have overridden that template in something like a custom admin theme, you may need to manually add some markup in order to see those links. The module does also define new permissions to manage the settings for these links or to view them. And the settings really consist of specifying which of the links you want to appear if the relevant files are available. By default, it will show all 3, but if you wanted, you could, for example, only have it show the README links. So let's talk about module instructions.
Just out of curiosity, where can we find the module instructions for this module? No,
but once you install it,
that was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. Don't warrant that with an answer. This seems like a really good module to have, because like often you're like, you install a new module and you're like, how do I configure this thing? And then you're like, oh, let me go into the code. And then you're like, oh, let me go to Drupal.org. Let me, figure it out. Right. And adding those links right to like that page seems pretty smart. So this feels like a good one to me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was a big step forward when Drupal added those configuration and permissions links on the module page. So having these extra links to me feels like a natural progression there.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be interested to know how many modules. Obviously most modules have a README, but I wonder how many modules have like changelog or install files associated with them.
Yeah, I feel like to your point, John, README is pretty common, hopefully almost universal at this point, but changelog I definitely see less, in install I would say pretty rarely at this point.
Yeah.
Is there an actual like naming convention instructions? I haven't developed a Drupal module in quite a while, although I did develop a lot of them back in the day. Is there instructions for developers, guidance as to the naming of those files, or is this module just sort of making several educated guesses?
I don't think there's a specific guideline. I think in general, READMEs are almost always README, although right. I think this module is expecting them to be called README.txt, and I think a lot of people are starting to move to README.md.
Yeah.
Wait, there aren't core guidelines on what those files are called?
It's README and install, but it does do some checking. Oh no, it does. Actually, I just read the code. It checks to see if there's a README.txt first, and if not, it looks for a README without a txt suffix, and then it checks for lowercase. So it does some checking, but it's not. There's probably some that it could miss.
Yeah, I know there is a page in the Drupal core documentation that talks about README files and what the sort of, canonical structure is meant to be and all those good things. So I imagine there's got to be some guidance in there in terms of how it should be named. But yeah, I feel like either readme.txt or readme.md is probably mostly what you're going to see.
Well, and then when a module like this gets popular, it starts to create its own
incentive
path. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people sort of fall in line to be compatible with. So good stuff.
Yeah, Drupal.org also has a new integration with README to you can have it automatically copy the README text to the module page too. So you don't have to like update your README and then go into the module edit page and put it there. You can just check a box and it will
according to Drupal.org, and this is in the show notes, the readme.md template last updated on November 30th, 2023. The Drupal community recommends using the markdown format to create a readme.md file. The show notes will have a link to that if anybody's interested in reading more about readme files.
Awesome. Well, as always, thank you, Martin, for another great module of the week, and it's good to have you back this week.
Thanks, Nick. If our listeners want to suggest a module of the week, they can reach out to me on all the Drupal platforms as ManClue, or happy to also receive nominations in the Talking Drupal channel of the Drupal Slack.